Welcome to Leo Augusto's compilation channel.
You'll only find videos 10 minutes or longer here. Subscribe so you don't miss any.
My name is Janaína. I'm from São João dos Campos. I am 41 years old. I'm married, an engineer, a homemaker, and the mother of Pedrinho, who is 6 years old.
He was the one who introduced me to your channel, and he's right here by my side, and he asked me to tell you a story of mine that I've already told him. Thank you, Pedrinho, for asking your mom to tell us this story. Let's see what happened. This is the first time a mom is telling a story here. I'm going to share a bizarre story that happened to me when I was 22 years old. And I was single. I lived with my family in São Bernardo do Campo. For this, I'll give you some explanations first so you can understand my story. When I was a child, there was a municipal emergency room in São Bernardo right by the Anchieta highway. So all the accident victims from the highway and the local population used this emergency room. My mom even took me there once. It was an old, ugly-looking building, and at the end of the 80s, it was closed down. And the emergency room was moved to a new building. That old emergency room stayed closed for many years. When I was already an adult, around the year 2000, I noticed that it had reopened as a hotel. So at 22 years old, I became unemployed, and since I spoke English, I decided to look for a job as a bilingual receptionist. Jobs were really hard to find at that time, and I was unemployed for a long time. I sent my resume all over São Bernardo do Campo, and I was called for an interview at a fancy hotel downtown. I was approved for the receptionist position, but at the last minute, it turned out to be for the hotel near my house, the one that used to be the emergency room. And it stayed closed for many years. My God. You're going to work at that hotel that used to be a hospital. I really didn't want to go at all because the place had a reputation for being haunted, but I needed the money, so I went anyway. It's impossible to describe in words the negative energy of that place. The air was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. It was crazy. I'm imagining the heavy air here, I used to work where the morgue used to be in the past. Just imagine how creepy that was. I'm thinking about it here, and I'm already getting...
What? Sweaty.
But the employees were really nice and close-knit. They had all seen so many hauntings that we worked in pairs. I have so many stories of mine and my colleagues to tell you that it could fill a book, but I'll tell you just one. The hotel had such a terrible reputation. I arrived one winter Sunday at 6 Antemeridium to find it empty, as always. And I started my shift. There was only me in the hotel, the maid Bernardina, and the kitchen helper Anna. There were no guests in the hotel, and we got scared of a robbery. So I locked the reception door with the key. The three of us sat on the giant sofa in the reception, watched television, and ended up falling asleep. Then suddenly I saw myself floating above my own body. I looked to the side and saw my two friends asleep as well. I felt really scared. There was an evil shadow over Anna. And she was struggling. Suddenly, Anna got up and ran to the hotel kitchen. At that moment, the shadow came towards me. And it squeezed my neck and I couldn't move. It was horrible. Then I remembered the Lord's Prayer and started to pray, and the shadow let me go. So I woke up with a start and ran to the kitchen. There I found Anna, who was crying and shaking, saying she dreamed she left her body, that she floated and saw me and Bernardina sleeping, and that a demon grabbed her by the neck and tried to strangle her, and that she remembered the creed prayer and started to pray, and the thing let her go and she woke up and ran to the kitchen. What's going on in this place, huh? I was horrified and crying.
I told her I had the same nightmare.
That's when Bernardina came running into the kitchen, crying, and also asked why we had left her alone at the reception. She said she had a nightmare where she floated above her own body and saw Anna and me going to the kitchen afterwards.
And she told the same nightmare.
Damn, man.
So we told each other about our same nightmares and ended up shaking in the kitchen. That was around 6:30 in the morning. Since it was a hotel, guests could show up at any moment. So even with the hotel empty, Anna would make a fancy breakfast and tidy up the hotel's dining area. With only the finest furnishings, the dining area was adjacent to the kitchen, connected by a communicating door. Well, we were drinking sugar water in the kitchen to calm down after the supernatural experience we had, right? When the cups in the empty dining area started clinking, there was the sound of little spoons being placed on saucers and chairs being dragged, as if the dining area was having a busy breakfast morning. I'm feeling dizzy here, damn man. We looked at each other.
And we left.
We ran out of the hotel and stayed there until about 7 o'clock when the manager arrived and we told him everything. We got a warning for sleeping on the job and he didn't believe us, said ghosts don't exist. The kitchen was spotless, not a single cup out of place. Thank God I quit that job soon after. The hotel closed later and remains closed to this day. Let me know if you want to hear more stories. Thanks for listening. What a story, huh? I even got scared here, man. Damn, dude. That really is some bizarre haunting, isn't it? It all started when me and 4 friends rented a boat to go fishing on a river. Near that river, there was a pasture with cows and horses. Before we left home, a friend of my grandmother said something. Son, be careful. There's an old hairy man with long nails wandering around there. When I was pregnant with my daughter, he tried to scratch me to pass on the curse. Me, being the brave coward that I am, said, if I find that bastard, I'll kill him. But I was praying not to run into him, you know? So we went fishing. We were right in front of the pasture where the cows and horse were. We stayed there for quite a while and didn't catch a single fish. Then, out of nowhere, a really thick fog started to appear. The cows and horse started running. We were totally on edge, you know?
Each of us grabbed an oar. Then, man, this really creepy creature showed up on the edge of the pasture. It looked like a dog, but it was huge, you know?
It was too smoky to see clearly. The creature lifted its 2 front paws to jump into the water. It must have been about 3 meters tall, man. Careless, we dropped the oar in the water. The creature started getting closer, man. It was swimming toward us and destroyed the oars with its bite. Luckily, there was that little motor on the back of the boat, you know? I started trying to start that thing. I was pulling the handle, pulling the cord to get it going, but it seemed like there was some kind of problem, you know? The creature kept getting closer and closer until by some miracle the engine started, man. We got out of there fast. We got to the docks where we had rented the boat and told the fishermen what we saw. One of them said, there are a lot of things in this world we pray we never run into. I heard about the man who went fishing there and disappeared. I ran to my grandma's house and started crying, scared, wanting to do whatever I could so that thing wouldn't come after me. I have to admit I was terrified. By the way, my name is William.
I'm Marcos Pereira. My story starts when I was 8.
We lived in a small house with just a few rooms and we didn't have a big backyard.
Just a hallway where I used to play with my brother who was a year younger than me.
So my mother decided to buy a house that would meet our needs.
So far, so good. We moved to a neighborhood farther from downtown.
The house had a decent backyard, several rooms, and the area was peaceful.
One day my cousin visited and suggested we watch a movie. Guess which one?
The Curse of Chucky. I had to watch it with my little brother present. What example would I set if I chickened out? We continued watching the scary movie, but I hid my fear. After watching that movie, I couldn't sleep well because we had a lot of toys. I was afraid they would come to life and kill us.
So every night I was tense like that.
There was one afternoon when I was alone in the room, lying on the bed, playing on my dad's phone. Then I really had to go to the bathroom, and I left my action figure there, lying on the bed, next to the phone, right? I did my business and came back. When I got to the room and looked at the bed, the action figure was standing on the bed facing the door. I didn't sleep in that room that day. I asked my mom if I could sleep in hers.
Luckily, my mom sold all those cussed toys. Sometimes I wake up scared thinking there's a killer doll watching me ready to take me out. Hi, my name is Leon. I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me when I was 7 years old.
I had a friend who lived on the corner of my street. We used to spend a lot of time at his house playing cards, you know? One day he asked me if I wanted to buy a ring from him. I took a good look at it and ended up buying it for 5 rays. What made me buy that ring was its appearance. It was a dark material, really shiny. I realized it was more than just an object for my finger. I like to put it on ramps and slope places to let it roll down and play with it, you know? One day I was in my room sitting on my bed, just relaxing. I started rolling the ring hard under the bed. It would hit the wall and then come back. It was a way to pass the time. One day I pushed it more gently and watched what would happen. It didn't hit the wall and fell. So it couldn't roll back. My box camera was making it harder to reach and get it. As soon as I stood up, I heard a noise from the ring. And it rolled back slowly to my foot. I got scared, but even so, I gathered my courage and took a good look under the bed, right?
After all, how could the ring come back after it had fallen?
I didn't see anything. I stopped playing with it after that. When I turned 10, I started playing with that ring again. This time I put it on a wooden ramp that I had made. When I set it to go down, the ring rolled down and reached the floor. When I was about to pick it up, it went back to the top of the ramp by itself. Nowadays, I only wear it on my finger. And of course, before that, I put it in a glass of holy water, just to make sure it was completely spiritually clean. I went to the house of this friend who had sold it to me, but his house was no longer there. There was only a vacant lot with dry trees. Hey, Mr. Tonho, what happened to John's house here? What are you talking about? A house once stood there but was demolished 50 years ago after mysteriously catching fire one night. The family living there disappeared, and it's unknown if there were any victims. Nobody has lived there for half a century. Are you crazy, kid? I grabbed the ring immediately and threw it away. Hey, Leo! How are you? My name is Eric Alvis, and I wanted to tell you a story that happened to me when I was 9 years old. It still haunts me to this day. I really like soccer, you know, and everywhere I went with my friends, I played a match. We went to a neighborhood soccer field one day. Upon arrival, repairs were being done at the location. Some city workers were replacing the goalposts and clearing the weeds, so we were sad that we couldn't play there. But my friend remembered the school's court. The problem was, it was Saturday and the school was closed. We couldn't get in. Our desire to play soccer was so strong that we went to the school anyway and jumped over the wall. We stayed there for about 20 minutes until we heard the sound of a door opening. And then it slammed shut really hard. We got scared and worried because we thought it was the janitor or maybe a teacher. And if they caught us there, we'd be in trouble. Then we started to hear footsteps coming closer.
We didn't know where to run because we were scared. So we waited to see what would happen. But what we thought was someone who worked at the school was actually a fat, dirty, shirtless man. He was really ugly and disgusting. His skin was green, man. What the heck is that?
He looked more like a monster than a human being. And right after he showed up, he started chasing us. The guy grabbed my two friends with a deadly hug. They were screaming a lot. Luckily, I managed to dodge his grab and escape. I hid in the bathroom until things calmed down. When I noticed, it was already night and I started thinking of an escape plan. I took a good look down the hallway and didn't see anyone. But I saw a light coming from a classroom. Even though it was night and all the rooms were dark, that really scared me, but I gathered my courage and opened the door. And there were my two friends tied up on the floor. The light was coming from the center of the room. There were some candles lit. They said the guy had gone to look for me. I managed to untie them and we left the room. We ran to the wall so we could jump over it. When I looked back, I saw the man's shadow running at an incredible speed. Before he got there, everyone managed to jump, man, and we got out of there. On Monday, I met my friends at the school gate and we decided to go to the classroom to see how things were, right? To our surprise, everything was in perfect condition. No candles, no trace of that man. Everything was clean and organized. Hello, Leo. How are you? My name is Luis, and I'm going to tell you a story that happened at my school. Well, I had started at a school that was founded in 1958, and there was a very strange and old janitor there. He hated children. You could see on his face how much he disliked the students. It seemed like he was unhappy being there, watching and keeping order among those kids. These noisy kids, shut up you little brats. This place is starting to look like a zoo.
I'm going to get revenge on these brats. So he started stealing candy from every kid who walked past him. Give me that candy, you idiot. And get to your classroom already. What are you doing walking around here, huh?
Until one day he was diagnosed with diabetes.
Tragically, he had to have both legs amputated. Even so, he kept working at the school and stealing candy from the kids. Sometime later, he died in his house, which was at the back of the school. His grave was next to the house.
As the years went by, they put in a floor and everything else.
Then, after some time, strange things started to happen. Every child who passed by that place twisted their ankle.
That's right. Everyone who passed by there, including teachers, was destined to twist their ankle.
They say that's the curse the school carries and that the janitor's soul wanders around there from time to time.
Hello, my name is Cayo. My story happened when I was 12 years old on a farm with my friend Marcos. Since we were going to stay there for a month, we created a routine. We always woke up at 5 in the morning to take a walk around the area. On the third day of walking, we took a different path than we had before. We got pretty far from the farm. In the middle of that rural environment, we saw an abandoned shed. We soon went to check out what was inside.
The shed was locked with many chains that, by the way, were rusty.
There were a lot of rocks at the base of the door, and the grass had already grown a bit. In other words, that hadn't been opened for a long time.
What's interesting is that it seemed like the person who blocked that entrance didn't want it to be opened at all. I was really curious about what could be inside that warehouse. There could be something valuable hidden there.
I was overcome by greed and climbed onto a concrete block about 2 meters high to take a peek through the window.
It was pitch dark inside and I couldn't see clearly. I started to hear some chains moving around.
I got closer to the glass and tried to wipe it to see if I could spot anything, you know?
I tried to wipe off the dust until something hit the window and cracked the glass.
I got scared and slipped out of fear, you know? I fell to the floor and twisted my foot. My friend helped me up and we ran away from there toward the farm.
The next night, around 3:40 in the morning, we went to steal from the fridge, you know, because we got that late night hunger.
Until I hear the sound of chains coming from outside.
I spotted something sinister through the kitchen window, the shadow of a man on the porch.
I got scared, but I thought it was just my imagination. When I went to tell my friend, he was pale and trembling.
I couldn't see clearly because it was dark. I saw that there were chains tied to his arms and he was looking for something.
It seemed like it was after us.
Scared out of our minds, we went back to the room. We locked the door and tried to sleep after that.
It was hard, but eventually we managed to sleep. The next morning we went for a walk again, now a bit more cautious because of what happened the night before.
We went back to that abandoned warehouse, and what we saw was crazy. You know the window of the warehouse I was peeking through?
So, it was broken, and on the ground there were traces of glass with blood. Whatever was inside got out. There were some vultures landing in some bushes nearby. Even though we were scared, we went over there to take a look. And to our surprise, we saw the humanoid from a distance. He was crouched down eating the animal. That wasn't a human being because he had this kind of reddish color, you know?
And no hair or clothes, it looked like a creature coming from the underworld.
We ran out of there and never went back to that farm. Hello, Joao Miguel. Please go ahead and share your recent story with me.
One day I was playing real-life Fortnite with my friends from the condo. We spent a lot of time messing around at the playground, climbing obstacles and tagging each other. We played for several hours until there came a point when the game got kind of boring, you know?
We needed something more exciting, a place where our game would feel a bit more dangerous. That's when we had the idea to go play in an abandoned building that was nearby. There was a rumor that said whoever went in there couldn't come back and would disappear forever.
Others said the place was haunted and killed anyone who went in. Since we didn't believe that, we went there.
We prepared our airsoft guns to start our battle.
However, we heard a strange noise coming from the upper part of the building.
Since there were 4 of us, we went there to check if there was anyone else making a mess. We reached the 2nd floor.
There was no one there, just a lot of trash scattered around, graffiti on the walls, and some strange drawings that looked more like ancient writings. One thing that caught my attention was the heavy atmosphere there.
I believe that was what made my younger friend start crying and wet his pants.
Since we were already there, I insisted that we explore more floors.
2 of them liked the idea, but my younger friend didn't want to.
Since the majority won, we went up to the 3rd floor to take a look.
That's when things started to get weird.
The atmosphere got heavier than before, and when I realized it, everyone was crouched down on the floor.
It felt like we were under really strong gravity.
My vision started to get blurry, and when I focused, I saw something chilling. In the middle of the room, there was a person wearing a hood. He was pointing to a part of the floor where there was no wall. My friend was walking as if he was hypnotized by that thing. I tried calling him, but he couldn't hear me. It seemed like everyone was following what that creature commanded. I think I was the only one lucid at that moment. They were about to fall down there. With great effort, I managed to grab my airsoft gun. And I started shooting at that thing.
By some miracle, the thing vanished into thin air, man. The guys came back to reality right after.
I was afraid that thing would come back, so I quickly told everyone to run for us to get out of there.
We escaped with great difficulty. What in God's name was that?
I think that thing is still wandering around there, going back and forth, looking for new victims who go in there. I hope you enjoyed this compilation and that I brought you some good entertainment.